Looking back now, I guess I should have seen it coming. But honestly, I still think Marcus overreacted to everything. I mean, sure, maybe I made some choices that weren't perfect, but the way everyone turned on me like I was some kind of monster, that was completely out of line. It all started so innocently. Really, Marcus and I had been married for about 2 years when things with Ryan began. Not that I was looking for anything, it just happened. Marcus was always working late, always buried in his law cases, always too tired or too stressed to really pay attention to me. Meanwhile, Ryan would come over to watch games or help with projects around the house, and he actually talked to me. He noticed when I got my hair done. He laughed at my jokes. He made me feel like I was actually worth something instead of just another item on Marcus's endless to-do list. The first time anything happened between us, Marcus was in Chicago for some boring conference. Ryan came over to fix our garbage disposal because I'd mentioned it was making weird noises. And afterward we had a few drinks. One thing led to another. And honestly, it felt so natural. So right? Like finally, someone was seeing me for who I really was, instead of just expecting me to be the perfect little lawyer's wife who smiled and nodded at dinner parties. I remember lying in bed that night thinking I should feel guilty, but I didn't, not really. What I felt was alive for the first time in months. Marcus came home 2 days later with some generic airport flowers and immediately started complaining about how the case was going. He didn't even notice I'd gotten highlights. After that, Ryan and I started finding more opportunities to be together. When Kelly was at her book club, when Marcus was working late, which was basically every night. Sometimes Ryan would come over during lunch when Marcus was at the office. It was exciting, having this secret, having someone who actually wanted to spend time with me. Ryan made me laugh. He told me I was beautiful. He listened when I talked about my day instead of just grunting and scrolling through emails. Marcus was completely oblivious, which honestly just proved my point about how little attention he paid to me. Ryan and I could be flirting right in front of him, and he wouldn't notice because he'd be checking his phone or thinking about work. Sometimes I wondered if Marcus would even care if he found out, or if he'd just be annoyed that it was interfering with his schedule. The money thing happened about 3 years into our relationship. Ryan had been having some bad luck with investments, okay? Fine. He had a gambling problem. But everyone acts like that makes him some kind of criminal. He was trying to get help. He just needed a little support to get back on his feet. And Marcus made so much money he barely paid attention to our accounts. I'd been handling most of the household finances anyway because he was always too busy. Forging his signature wasn't even that hard. I'd been signing his name on Christmas cards and thank you notes for years, and the business invoices were simple. Marcus had so many different clients and vendors. A few extra payments here and there wouldn't even register. It's not like I was buying myself jewelry or going on shopping sprees. I was helping someone I cared about get his life together. Ryan was so grateful. Too, he kept saying he'd pay it back as soon as he got ahead again. And I believed him. I still believe he would have if everything hadn't blown up the way it did. But Marcus had to go and ruin everything with his paranoia and his need to control every little detail of our lives. The whole DNA test thing was so stupid. We'd been going to George's beach house once a month. For years, it was this tradition with Marcus's college friends. Howard, Jeremy, Kyle, David, George, and Marcus. Plus all the wives. Usually it was pretty boring, just the guys talking about work and sports, while us women tried to make conversation about whatever. But that particular weekend, Howard was going on and on about his son, Alan, acting up at school. And Jeremy made some joke about maybe Alan wasn't really Howard's kid. I should have shut it down right then. But honestly, I thought it was harmless. Emma was 8 years old, and she looked enough like Marcus that no one had ever questioned anything. Plus, I figured even if the test showed something weird, I could explain it away. Science is complicated. Right. Those tests aren't always accurate. So when all the guys decided to get DNA tests done as some kind of bonding experience, I actually encouraged it. I thought it would make me look innocent, like someone with nothing to hide. Marcus seemed excited about it, talking about how cool it would be to see Emma's genetic breakdown and maybe learn about her ancestry. We all went to this clinic downtown and did the cheek swabs. Emma thought it was fun, like a science experiment. The whole thing took maybe 20 minutes. And then we went out for lunch like it was no big deal. I actually forgot about it for a while because the results were supposed to take a few weeks. When the results came back, Marcus opened them at his apartment while I was making dinner. I heard him make this weird noise from the living room, and when I went to check on him, He was just staring at this paper with the most horrible expression on his face. Emma isn't mine. He kept saying, 25.0%. Emma isn't mine. He kept repeating those numbers like a broken record. And I tried to stay calm, tried to think of explanations. Maybe the test was wrong. Maybe there was a mix-up at the lab. Maybe the science was more complicated than we understood. But Marcus just kept staring at that paper, and I could see his whole world crashing down. I tried to comfort him, told him it didn't matter, that Emma was still his daughter in every way that counted, but he was already pulling away from me, already looking at me like I was a stranger, like I was something disgusting he'd found under a rock. The next few days were a nightmare. Marcus barely spoke to me, barely looked at me. He started sleeping in the guest room. He hired some private investigator. Can you believe that? Like I was some kind of criminal instead of his wife who'd made a mistake. And then his friends started acting weird around me too, like Marcus had been telling them things. I tried to do damage control, called all the wives to explain my side of the story. I told them Marcus was being completely irrational, that he was jumping to conclusions and making everything worse than it needed to be. Some of them seemed sympathetic at first, especially when I cried and told them how scared I was that Marcus was going to leave me over something that didn't even matter. But Marcus's little investigation kept turning up more and more stuff. Emails between Ryan and me, photos from when we'd gone away together that one weekend, the financial records showing the money transfers. He laid it all out like he was building a legal case, which I guess he was. The worst part was how he turned Emma's birthday party into this huge, dramatic scene. It was supposed to be a celebration. Emma had been looking forward to it for weeks. And I'd spent so much time planning everything. All our family was there. Marcus's parents, my sister, the kids' friends from school. It should have been a happy day. Instead, Marcus waited until everyone was gathered in the living room. And then he stood up and made this big announcement. He had the DNA test results printed out, and he showed them to everyone. He gave this whole speech about lies and betrayal. And everyone just sat there staring at me like I was some kind of monster. Emma started crying and asking questions I couldn't answer. Is Uncle Ryan my real daddy? Don't you love me anymore? It was horrible. Marcus had completely traumatized his own daughter just to make me look bad in front of everyone. Ryan tried to defend me, tried to explain that we'd never meant for anyone to get hurt. But Marcus's friends literally escorted us out of the house. They had some kind of code word pineapple, like they were running some kind of military operation, instead of just kicking a woman out of her own home. The divorce took 18 months, and Marcus fought me on everything. He wanted the house. He wanted primary custody of Emma. He wanted me to pay back every penny of the money I'd borrowed. His lawyer was vicious, painting me like I was some kind of gold-digging sociopath instead of a woman who'd made some mistakes in a difficult marriage. I tried to maintain my relationship with Emma, buying her nice gifts and taking her fun places during my visitation time. But Marcus had obviously been poisoning her against me because she started acting distant and uncomfortable. She didn't want the presents I brought her. She didn't want to hear about Ryan or understand that he cared about her too. The criminal charges were the worst part. Apparently, helping someone you love is considered fraud and forgery in the eyes of the law. Ryan got 2 years in prison, which was completely excessive for someone who was just trying to get back on his feet. I got 3 years probation, which means I have to check in with this condescending probation officer every month and pretend to be sorry for caring about people. Marcus's parents completely cut Ryan out of their lives, which is so typical of their judgmental attitude. His father actually changed the locks on Ryan's apartment and threw his stuff out on the street like he was some kind of criminal instead of their own son who was going through a hard time. Now I get to see Emma every other weekend, and only with a supervisor present like I'm some kind of danger to my own daughter. She's in therapy because Marcus convinced everyone that she's traumatized. But honestly, she seemed fine until everyone started making such a big deal about everything. Marcus kept the house, most of the money, and primary custody. He gets to play the victim while I'm the one whose entire life got destroyed. His friends all rallied around him like he's some kind of hero. And I'm sure he loves the attention. He probably tells the story at parties about how he uncovered this huge conspiracy and saved his daughter from her terrible mother. But here's what nobody wants to acknowledge. Emma's fine. She's healthy and smart and loved. And it shouldn't matter whose DNA she has. Ryan loved her too, in his own way. And he would have been a good father figure if everyone hadn't freaked out about biology. Marcus acts like I committed some unforgivable sin. But all I did was follow my heart and try to help someone I cared about. I never meant for anyone to get hurt. I never wanted Emma to be confused or scared. I just wanted to be happy, to feel appreciated and valued and alive. Is that really so terrible? Is wanting more out of life really worth destroying a family over? Marcus could have handled this so differently. We could have worked it out, gone to counseling, figured out how to move forward together. But he had to make it into this huge dramatic thing, had to humiliate me in front of everyone we knew, had to turn my own daughter against me. And now everyone acts like I'm this awful person who deserves everything that happened to me. But I'm the one who lost everything. I'm the one who went from having a family and a home and a life to living in a tiny apartment and seeing my daughter 4 days a month. I'm the one who has to deal with the judgment and the whispers and the looks when I run into people we used to know. Ryan writes me letters from prison sometimes, and he says he's sorry for everything that happened. But I'm not sure what we're supposed to be sorry for. We fell in love. We tried to help each other. We didn't set out to hurt anyone. If Marcus had been a better husband, if he'd paid attention to me and made me feel valued, maybe none of this would have happened. I know people think I should take responsibility, should admit I was wrong, and beg for forgiveness. But the truth is, I'm not sure what I would do differently if I had to do it over again. Maybe I would have been more careful, more discreet. Maybe I would have left Marcus before getting involved with Ryan. But I can't regret caring about someone, and I can't regret trying to help when he needed it. The supervised visitation is supposed to end eventually, assuming I complete my probation without any problems, and convince some court-appointed therapist that I'm not a threat to my own child. It's humiliating, having to prove that I'm fit to spend time with Emma. But I'll do whatever it takes to get my daughter back. Sometimes I think about what life would be like if that stupid DNA test had never happened. Emma would still think of Marcus as her dad, but she'd also have Ryan in her life. We could have been this big, complicated, loving family if everyone hadn't gotten so hung up on traditional definitions and legal technicalities. But Marcus had to make it about betrayal and lies instead of about love and family. He had to turn it into this legal battle instead of trying to understand why I did what I did. He destroyed our family because his ego couldn't handle the truth. And now Emma is the one who suffers for it. I still hope that someday Emma will understand that everything I did came from a place of love, that I never meant to hurt her or confuse her, and that having Ryan as her biological father doesn't make her any less special or loved. Maybe when she's older, when she's not so influenced by Marcus and his version of events, she'll want to have a real relationship with me again. Until then, I just have to keep going, keep trying to rebuild my life from nothing. It's not fair, and it's not right. But apparently, this is the price I have to pay for refusing to settle for a boring, loveless marriage, for wanting more than what Marcus was willing to give me. Everyone wants me to say I'm sorry, to admit I was wrong, and promise to never make the same mistakes again. But I can't apologize for loving someone, and I can't promise to stop following my heart just because other people don't understand it. That's not who I am. And I won't let them make me into someone smaller and more acceptable just to make everyone else feel better about what happened. Maybe that makes me stubborn. Or selfish, or whatever other names people want to call me. But at least I know I lived my life honestly. Even when it was complicated and messy and hard, that's more than a lot of people can say.